Did I hear you right that it was Baba who directed you to come?
I've had some really extraordinary experiences with Bhagwan, which are really mind blowing.
Extraordinary experiences with Sai Baba? What an understatement.
I was mixing concentrated sulfuric acid and acetic anhydride, and the whole thing exploded into my eye, and I lost both my eyes.
He's an associate professor of chemistry at Sai Baba's University. And incredibly, this is just one of 3 similar stories he has about Sai Baba's healing hand regarding the same problem, blindness. And next time?
And so I continued with my work, and I was working with chromic acid. And I had connected a vacuum pump whose power I did not know because it had just come the previous day. So when I went close to it, the whole thing imploded and threw the acid into both my eyes again.
No! and there was a third story about blindness Ravi learned from, thanks to Sai Baba.
It fell in my eye and it started burning. As the drops were falling, I could feel that it was making holes in my shirt. It was that powerful that I would be very grateful to Bhagwan if till the last breath animates my body, I live for him, I do his service, and I want to live for this.
Dr. Ravi Kumar's connection to Sai Baba dates back to the 1960s. Today, he teaches and serves as warden of the Vrindavan Hostel. Welcome to Souljourns. This interview was recorded in Coronado, California in July 2018.
Yeah, Sairam Ted, it's such a pleasure to be with both of you today.
Yeah. Well, Jody's been looking forward to it, and so have I been. A long time ago, did I hear you right that it was Baba who directed you to come to be at his side at the age of 4.5?
No, it is like this, that we had come to Bhagwan in 1968 as a family, when my father had cancer and Baba cured him of cancer. But during one of my talks, when I mentioned that I had come to him in 1968, he said, no, you came to me in 1963.
Oh, he did, huh?
He did that.
And how did he
and
figure
then he, well, I kept silent because you don't inform the all-knowing.
Of what would you inform the
yes,
all-knowing?
what would you tell him? Yeah. So, at that time, Bhagwan reminded me that on the day my mother had passed away, her body was kept there, and there was a cousin of mine, slightly older than me, maybe a couple of months, who came and told me that they are going to take your mother in a procession. And I was very happy because I had only seen temple processions. We were close to a temple.
Right.
And so I thought it would be a festive occasion. And then he said, but they won't bring her back.
Oh.
And so I was very upset and started making a lot of noise. And they had to calm me down. So they took me across the street to my aunt's house. And she happened to be Baba's devotee. Mm-hmm. So when we entered her house, there was Baba's photo there. And I asked her, who is this auntie? And she said, this is not auntie, this is God. And pray to him and he will take care of you. Swami mentioned this particular incident and he said, from that moment I'm taking care of you. And so you came to me in 1963.
So he told you that he had known about that.
Yes.
Coming to him.
Yes. He mentioned the entire incident.
That must have won you over in a big way almost immediately, or absolutely immediately.
Absolutely.
It's been since the 60s since you've been with Sai Baba in one form, one capacity or another. I know of many devotees who have come and gone, come for a couple of decades and gone. You've been there for your whole life. Why have you stayed so long?
I would credit it to his compassion on me. I would think that he is extraordinarily compassionate on me, to have kept me at his lotus feet all this while.
So why you?
I think the one who needs the doctor most is the most sick patient.
You don't look like a sick patient to me.
Not sick physically. Maybe I have a long way to cover spiritually.
Yeah. Well, what a wonderful series of experiences. If anybody were to ask you the highlights of your many years with Sai Baba, it probably would be impossible to say, but do you want to give it a try? Some of the highlights of your years with Baba?
It would be a really long interview, Ted. Then I've had some really extraordinary experiences with Bhagwan, which are really mind-blowing. Maybe this I would credit as one of the very important ones in my life. I will give it in a little detail because it's a very important incident. I consider it very close to my heart, and so I would mention this. I was doing my post-graduation in a place about 80 kilometers from Prashanthi Nilayam in Anantapur.
Okay.
There is a SV University PG Center.
Right.
And Swami had asked me to do my masters there. This was in the year 1979. And when I joined there, I would come during the weekends. And during one of those trips, my senior brothers came to me and said, Swami remembered you when you were there. I said, what happened? They said, we wanted to put up a drama on Jesus Christ's life called The Kingdom of Heaven. And so we went to Bhagwan and asked him for permission. And he said, yeah, that's a good idea. Put up the drama. And then we showed him the cast, And Baba looked through the list and pointed one particular role and said, make Ravi do this role.
And what role was that?
That role was that of a blind beggar. And Jesus was entering the town, and this blind beggar was on the curb, and somebody tells him, why don't you go and ask him to give you eyesight? And so this small little boy goes and asks Jesus to give him eyesight, and Jesus asks him, do you have the faith that I can give you eyesight? And he says yes. And then this boy is given eyesight by Jesus by just rubbing his eyes. This was the role I was to play. And of course Jesus tells him, don't tell anyone, and the first thing he does is to go around and tell everyone. And this was somewhere in 79-80 when I was doing my masters. During a few years later, I joined the Vrindavan campus as a lecturer in 1981. And after that, Swami asked me to move to Prashanthi Nilayam to do my research in chemistry. And while I was doing my research, one day in the afternoon, all the others had left for their lunch. And one of the students who was leaving asked me, are you coming for lunch? I said, you go ahead, I will just finish this experiment and come. And just when he was leaving, I was mixing concentrated sulfuric acid and acetic anhydride, and the whole thing exploded into my eye, and I lost both my eyes.
Oh my goodness, I can see where this is starting to go. You lost the sight in both of your eyes?
Yes.
What an awful accident.
And then he came, I screamed out for Swami, and this boy who had gone about 100 meters came back running. He sensed something was wrong in my voice, came back and he asked me what happened. I said, take me to the nearest tap. I have acid in my eyes. It was concentrated sulfuric acid. And so when we went to the tap, there was no water in the tap.
Oh my goodness.
Because there was a building coming up next to the chemistry lab, a library building, and they had shut off the water for some plumbing work, and everyone had gone for lunch. Okay, so we found one tap. In a chemistry lab you have a number of taps, so luckily there was one tap in which there was a little water. And so when we went to that tap, we found a little water and washed, and then we went to the general hospital. But unfortunately the eye doctor had gone back to her native place because she had some visa problem.
So every time there's a disappointment at every turn.
Yes. And so the nurse asked, why did you bring him here? And there was nothing we could do. So she said, why don't you take him to Bangalore? So this boy who brought me said, shall we go to Bangalore? I said, no, we'll go for darshan. Let me go to Swami. And as I was sitting there, as Bhagwan passed me, some elders told Swami what had happened, and he gave me 3 packets of vibhutti. He said, take this and you will be fine. And he said, start immediately. So after 3 days, when I had finished the last dose of vibhutti, it was in the night, I was sitting and brooding over this and in a very depressed mood, because I said, All through my life, I had wanted to do something for Swami. He had brought me up since I was very young, and he had been a mother to me. And I said, I must in some way show my gratitude to him. And here I was in a state where not only I would not be able to serve him, somebody would have to serve me. And I was very depressed and cried myself to sleep. And the next morning, there was this student who knocked on the door, and I said, please come in. He came in. I said, oh, you brought my coffee. And he said, sir, what dress am I wearing? I wondered what was the connection between these two, but I said, you're wearing a grey track pant and a cream t-shirt. He said, you're able to see. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks.
You didn't realize it right away.
I didn't realize it was so clear, And
so your very dim sight while you were undergoing the effects of this acid wash through your eyes completely went away after.
Yes, absolutely. It was dark. It was not like it was light and I could see figures. It was not like that at all.
It was dark.
It was dark.
You were probably worried that you might not get your vision back.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then I went for darshan, and Swami walked up to me and said, how are your eyes?
Oh no.
And at such moments, your tongue does not speak.
Yeah.
The eyes do.
Yeah.
And so I shed a lot of tears. And then he said, that's all right. Go to Bangalore and get yourself a pair of spectacles and be careful next time. And I shuddered because there would be a next time.
Yeah, because you continued.
Yeah.
That was your field of endeavor.
Yes. And the moment Bhagwan mentioned this next time, I really got worried. And then I continued my research. Towards the end of my research, my spectacle fell down and broke.
Oh no.
But I was doing an experiment which had to continue. And if I did not continue, everything would get postponed by 3 months. And receiving the degree from Bhagwan's hands would be postponed by a year. And so I didn't want that to happen, even though in my ears the voice rang, so clearly, be careful next time. But I said, I'll be very careful. And so I continued with my work, and I was working with chromic acid. And I had connected a vacuum pump whose power I did not know because it had just come the previous day, a Japanese pump. And nothing happened. So when I went close to it, the whole thing imploded and threw the acid into both my eyes again.
No.
And yes, that was the reaction.
Is that a more potent type of acid?
Yes, it is concentrated sulfuric acid and potassium dichromate. And
So
it would be
very dangerous.
Very dangerous, and it would be something like 70 degrees, black and fumes. And even as it fell in my eye and it started burning, as the drops were falling, I could feel that it was making holes in my shirt. It was that powerful. But luckily water was there, and I washed for a lot of time, almost like 45 minutes. But every time we would stop, it would burn so much. And so we went to the hospital. The eye doctor was there, and she examined me. This boy who came with me, he was holding my hand, suddenly left my hand and went with her. And they had a discussion, and he came back. I asked him, what did the doctor tell you? He said, the doctor said that everything is fine. I said everything could not be fine because it's burning so much. And I used a nice trump card. I told him, look, Swami is going to ask me today in the evening, what did the doctor say? So give me the facts. And then the doctor said that there is nothing left of your eye, and let him not get depressed. Take him to another doctor in Bangalore. Let him not feel nothing was done, but there's nothing that can be done by me.
Oh.
And so he said, shall we go to Bangalore? I said, no, we'll go for Baba's darshan. And this time I was sitting in the front with a huge bandage and all that. And as Swami came out and he was going towards the lady's side, somebody said later, Swami saw me from the corner of his eye and came rushing towards me asking, what happened? And then it switched over to, I told you to be careful. I told you to be careful. And then he very tenderly held my hand and created vibhutti and poured it in that and said, eat it. As I ate it, he said, do not worry about anything, everything will be fine. Go tomorrow and get your dressing changed. The next day when I went, the eye doctor opened the bandage. I could see her, but she didn't actually know, so she examined me for a number of times and finally said, I think something is wrong with my eye. And you know, Ted, that has been my experience. And why would I leave him?
Why would you leave
Why
him?
would I?
Never in a million years would you
Never,
leave him.
yes. And
This is an amazing story.
yes.
Have you written it up? It should
Yes,
be-
I have written it up.
That's great.
It's in the institute. That's another interesting thing, Ted, because any number of times I have narrated this in Bhagwan's presence. Any number of times in Kulwant Hall and Purnachanda Auditorium and many places. And Professor G.V. wanted me to write about it.
G.V. Venkatraman.
Yes, G. Venkatraman, he wanted me to write. And so I wrote it in the institute publication. And before this, what had happened, I had told him, sir, I will write it when I get an indication from Bhagwan, because it's something very precious for me. It's very personal and very precious. And he said, no, a first person account will be very important for future generations. It's better you write it. And one Deepavali day, early in the morning, Swami came in my dream and said, you write that article. And intuitively I knew it was this Swami was mentioning. And Swami asked me, what's the title you will give for it? I said, I had not thought of writing the article, Swami, so I have not thought of a title. Then he said, give it the title Chaksho Suryo Ajayata.
And what does that mean?
Exactly. That's what he asked me. What does it mean? And I said, Swami, it's a phrase which comes in Purusha Suktam, in Vedas, you know, in which there is this connection between the moon and the mind, and the eye and the sun.
So it was based on that.
Yes, based on that. So I said, but Swami was not happy. He said, I didn't ask for the meaning. I didn't ask for the context. I asked for the meaning.
I see.
Then I said, he asked, what does Chakshu mean? Chakshu means the eye. I said, it means the eye. What does the sun, Surya mean? He said. And I told him a number of synonyms for the sun. And when I had exhausted my entire list, he said, it also means Ravi.
Oh, it does?
Yes.
It means your name. You.
Yes, my name. Chaksho Suryo Ajayata, how Ravi got back his eyesight.
Oh.
And so that is the name under which I have written that article.
Well, I'm still stuck at Baba telling you to be the actor for the blind boy.
When I look back, I can connect the dots now.
Oh, yes. Now, it's been quite a few years since Baba's Mahasamadhi. Do you still miss him?
It would be untruthful to say I don't miss him, Ted. I do miss his form, but I don't miss Baba. I feel his presence all the time.
So he's not gone.
He's absolutely not gone. He's very much with me.
Does he ever let you know when you have a burning question or an issue that you are looking for guidance on in your life, like we all do?
Yes.
Does he ever let you know how to proceed?
Yes, many times. But I would give you an instance which might be indicative. A few months back, it was in the beginning of the semester. You know, I am the warden of the hostel.
Yes.
So we have about 300 plus students. And early one morning,
this is in Vrindavan.
In Vrindavan, a student comes and tells me, sir, there's no water in the tap.
And 300 boys have to.
And 300 boys have to get ready for the day, and you know. So I was wondering, the Suprabhatam is at 5:30, and students would have to get ready. And we checked up. We found that even though the power was there from the sump to the overhead tank, the point at which it was being pumped, there a transformer had burnt.
Okay.
And so it would take almost like half a day for that to get ready, and to have 300 people on the campus without water would be such a difficult thing. And so I was wondering what would happen when one of the boys came up with this idea that, so there's some water in the tank which is meant for solar heating, you know, we could use that for brushing. I said fine. So then we had Suprabhatam on time, And then we had this jogging, students had to go for jogging. I thought that would get delayed, but everyone was on time for that. By 6:15, everyone was on the ground. In the meanwhile, rang up to the water supply people and asked them to supply some tankers of water. They promised to supply within half an hour, but didn't turn up for almost 1.5 hours. So at somewhere at 7:15, 7:30, I was so worried because I was seeing all the students returning back. That would be a time they would need to go to the restroom, go for a shower.
Sure.
And breakfast would have to get ready, and the classes would have to go on. And in the meanwhile, a guest had come from somewhere to speak in the Thursday class. We have a moral class in the first hour, which Bhagwan had instituted right at the beginning of the campus, of the Satyasai College. And so this guest said, I would like to have darshan in Trai, will you please take me? So I took him till Trai and said, I'm still in my tracksuit, so I won't come in. You kindly go and I will do namaskar from here. As I did namaskar, I just told Swami in my mind, Swami, please do something. Ganga is with you, send her.
Yes.
Okay. When I got up from namaskar, there was a water tanker coming in, Ganga water supply.
Ganga water supply.
These are the ways in which he responds to you and shows you that he is always with you.
What do you see today as the enduring strengths and maybe some new weaknesses at the Sai Center in Prashanti and Vrindavan? The people are still learning to cope with in Baba's physical absence.
Yes. The enduring strength is that feeling that Swami is always with us, and the weakness is for us to always remember that even though he is without form, he is always around us. I would say in a sense that maybe Bhagwan is more available in the sense that we learn to go to him. He was always available 24/7. It is just that now we have to learn that he is available 24 hours even though he is not seen.
Well, you have probably as much experience as anybody in the Sai fold with observing young men go through the rigors of building their spiritual faith and having it tested and having resolution to their issues come forth. Because as the warden and as professor, as a longtime teacher, you must see many struggles with young boys, young men. I don't know I'm going to pass this exam. Maybe I won't be able to pass this course. I'm tempted to do this. I have difficulty with my friend who's telling me he's in trouble with his family. Do you see their faith in Baba also growing and strengthening because of the ups and downs of life?
Absolutely. I would like to tell you my own story. I went through this when I was a student.
We all do, yes.
And when I see them, I know that is there available because I went through this. When I joined Vrindavan, I was very poor in mathematics, and we used to go to Bhagwan's room for namaskar just before the exam. We are hardly 60-70 boys in the hostel. And so
back then,
yes, back then. So
and did he always guarantee you'd get an A, that you would do well?
He would give us namaskar, and that would fortify us enough. And he was always available, accessible that way physically.
Wonderful.
So we could go to him. But on that particular day, he was pulling up the caretaker of the ashram, Mr. Rama Brahmam. You might have heard of him.
I have.
Yeah. So, and when I went in, he called me also, and he kind of scolded me. He said, how much money do you get from your house? And I mentioned it was just about $1.50 by your currency.
A day?
100 rupees? No, for a month.
For a month? $1.50 for a month?
Yeah, and he said, what are you doing with this much money? And I said, Swami,
we're not talking about the 1900s. We're talking about 1970s. Yes.
Yes, this is 74.
Okay, so how much were you doing with that much money?
Yeah, I will tell you. we had to pay just about $1, 65 rupees for the entire month's mess. Boarding and lodging, everything was only that much. And Swami was asking me, what are you doing with the other 35 rupees? Give me account. And try as I might, I couldn't cross 10 rupees.
You couldn't?
I couldn't, because things were quite cheap then.
I'm not sure if I understood. Oh, you couldn't account for 10 rupees?
I could account for only 10 rupees out
only
of that 35. I couldn't account for 25.
So there was 25 rupees
Yes.
left over.
Yes. And he was very upset with me. He said, your father is struggling so much to earn, and you're wasting his money. Misuse of money is evil.
He did scold you.
Yes. And as he was scolding me, the examination hall, the bell rang. It was just next to the mandir. So he asked me, do you have exam today? I said, yes, Swami, I have exam. He said, okay, take namaskar. Did you have your breakfast? I said, no, I didn't. And go have your breakfast and go to the exam hall. So I had my breakfast and went to the exam hall 20 minutes late. And there was the maths teacher waiting outside, and
math was not your strong suit.
Not at all. And he knew that. So he was waiting outside. He asked, what happened? And he thought I had already given up the battle before starting it. I said, sir, it's a long story. I'll let you know later. So he said, yeah, go inside, because they won't give you a question paper if you go half an hour late.
Okay.
So I went in and I found that it was full of theorems. Theorems you could get by heart. And
you knew the answers.
Yes, I knew the answers very well. So I was sure I would do well. But in the first question itself, there was a substitution which I forgot. And then I messed up the entire paper. And when I came out, the teacher was still waiting. And he asked, how did you do your paper? I said, sir, I am very touched that you have waited 3 hours to ask me this question. He said, no, if you pass, we'll get a 10% result. That's why I was waiting for this.
If you pass, we'll get
the entire class would pass.
Oh, the entire class would pass. Because everybody else had already passed.
Yes. Would pass. You were sure everybody else would pass.
So what happened?
Then I asked him, I sat with him and we calculated. He said a very optimistic assessment would mean that you would get 35%. 35% was the brink.
Brink of passing.
Yes.
Or failing.
If you got 34, it was fail. 35 would be pass. And then, I was really scared. I said that, oh my God, 35 is kind of, he said that would be the most optimistic assessment. And then we had a summer vacation and Baba took me to Bombay for a drama. And when we returned,
You still didn't know the outcome of...
No. Okay. This was the vacation.
Yeah.
So when I came back, he called me for an interview.
Baba.
And he asked me, what do you want? I said, I want to pass in mathematics. And then he said, oh, that's done. What else would you like to have? I said, nothing. That's enough. And then when the results came, Professor Narendra was the principal then. Because the strength of the hostel was very less, he would give the marks list to Bhagwan. He would go through the report, read our names and give it to us. And as he read my name and gave it to me, I was stunned to see I had passed. But then he said, did you see your marks report? I said, yes, Swami, I have.
35?
Then he said, what about your marks in mathematics? It was 53.
53.
Yes.
Ravi, this has been the fastest half hour on Souljourns we've had for a while. Let me just ask you, if I can, one more question about experiences you've never had in your life. And that has to do with your future. What do you hope to do with the rest of your life with all this information, all these experiences, all these miracles, all this love? What do you hope to do most with the rest of your life?
Ted, I would be very grateful to Bhagwan if till the last breath animates my body, I live for him, I do his service. It would be the most wonderful thing, and I want to live for this.
Do people in Prashanti Nilayam and in Vrindavan still love Baba as much as we remember?
Very much they do.
Well, I wish you to be around for another 60 years.
Well, so thank you. That would be 120.
By the time that comes, people will be living to 120.
Thank you.
And especially since Baba knows how much you love him and how much you love working with those boys.
Yes.
Ravi, thank you very, very much. The last question, which I almost forgot to ask, is who is Sai Baba?
Sai Baba to me, at a personal level, is my mother and father, and my closest confidant, and in the spiritual sense is my God.
Very well put. Thank you, Jai Sai Ram.
Such a pleasure. Thank you. Sai Ram. Sai Ram.
From Sanatana Sarati was the first.
Yes.
I don't think you told the second.
And how do you say thank you to someone who has given you eyesight?
Twice.
Twice, yes.
Sorry.
Which the students conducted. They asked this question, who is there in this audience whom Baba has blessed with eyes 3 times?
And what did they say?
And everyone was confused. How can it be 3 times? They were kind of sure it was twice. And then they said, no, first time also it was Baba who gave.
Yeah.
Yeah.